Alright, today, me and Tom are going to explore a little bit about financial goal setting, like the overall view. Tom had some books that he recommended last time we went live last week. We just wanted to see if you guys had any other recommendations. I know books is a great form to get educated on really any space. Books, podcasts, YouTube, those are all great sources to just learn from others and not have to go through the same mistakes or be able to cut some corners just by the experience of others. There it is. How it
Hey,
doing?
doing well. I'm going to dial back the screen behind me to get not so much light coming in behind me. There we go.
How things going on your end, Tom? I see you're back in office. I hope your wife is doing well.
Yep, she's doing well. I'm looking
There we go.
forward to her getting back completely on her feet, walking around so we can do just normal things.
Yeah.
Normal things in life. So yesterday I was doing some normal things that she typically does, like laundry and things, and I thought I was being clever and trying to clean out this one drain thing, but I didn't screw it in correctly, and so managed to overflow the whole garage with water. Yeah, it was fun. So I was creating more work for myself. So today I said, I'm going to the office, because she goes, yeah, you want to go relax, don't you? Yeah.
You can't mess the office up, at least not too much.
Yeah, not too much. Yeah, I've got the coffee machine down. That's about the only thing I operate here.
There you go, the master of the coffee machine. There we go.
In my past life, you know that I was a VP and got heavily involved in leadership and leadership training with John Maxwell team. Think of 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. You were talking about books I recommended.
Yep.
Books I recommended to you and to my brother and other people is things like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the other one is a good companion to it, is The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Stephen Covey is the author of the first one. I think his son was author of the second one.
Gotcha.
We talk about finances a lot, but when we're helping people with their finances, we do a lot of coaching. We do a lot of encouragement, trying to help people find what it is they want to do in life. And that kind of relates to what's, the 7 habits of highly effective people. And with that, the first habit is be proactive. You can't just sit back and let things happen.
For sure.
Unfortunately, in our culture, there's a lot of victim mentality, like things are happening to you. You've got to make things happen if you want things better in life. And the second habit is begin with the end in mind. You and I were talking about some things. What is it that you want to do in your life with your finances? And your answer to me was, you want to get out of debt, right? You want to make sure you don't have any debt.
I think your question was, what is the most common misunderstood things about finances? And I automatically said getting out of debt, because people think, and I was just talking to somebody about this today, people think that getting out of debt is solving all of their financial problems. And someone literally, I just got off a call with him within the last hour or two. He said that he put down over $10,000 of just getting out of debt. And right when he did, everything's good as far as his balance sheet, if you would. He's now out of debt. But then his car went down, and then he got it fixed, and then the transmission went down. So it's back-to-back problems, which we all have problems that arise. But being able to have a buffer or a cushion of money to the side that can alleviate those problems, because 99% of problems are going to be financial problems in some type of way. And him getting out of debt, it put him in a bad liquidity standpoint. Even though he was good on paper as far as didn't owe the piper, if you would, he was now illiquid, which means he was paycheck to paycheck. And he really felt that when his car went down, and then right after that, the transmission. So that brings me back to the point of, when you get out of debt, there's no reward of having zero on the positive side and the negative side. The main thing is to build up assets that are going to hopefully out earn, or at least help your cash flow to alleviate some of these debts or scale your operations as far as the asset side.
Yeah, and a lot of people, if those that have mortgages, think that, paying down that mortgage debt is a good thing.
Yep.
And in one sense, if it's completely paid off, you don't have that mortgage payment. You still have taxes and insurance and maintenance and so on. I mean, it's like a car payment. If you can, I'm driving a 2009 Passat. It's got 140,000 miles on it. Why? Mostly it's an A to B car, but it goes great on the freeway too. You know, it's fine. It's in good shape. I've had it since the beginning. I had it repainted because $1,800 was less than $500 a month on a car payment. It's like, I didn't want that cash flowing out of my hands. But what a lot of people don't understand about mortgages, if you can't pay off that mortgage and you say, well, I've got an extra $10,000, I'm going to pay down the mortgage. It depends on where you are and your other financial, that may be a good thing. It may be a bad thing. Because if you have now, let's say, 6 months of unemployment and you can't make the mortgage payment, it doesn't matter that you paid an extra $10,000. The bank doesn't care. You're just not keeping up with the current mortgage. I think a mortgage is kind of good debt to have. You just have to be prepared for the eventuality that can happen quite often, which is a loss of income. It could be due to health. It could be for a lot of reasons outside of your control. But what I wanted to talk about is more some of these concepts in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Again, the first habit being be proactive. The second habit is begin with the end in mind, and that is, where do you want to be? And so when we talk to clients, this client you were referring to earlier would say, well, I just want to get out of debt. And my answers are like, well, why do you want to get out of debt? And then what would typically be the follow-up answer to that?
To have more cash flow. Because typically, if your money is going to someone else, it is typically at a cost of not only the principal, but also interest. So if you pay them off, that is money going back to your bottom line of how to utilize it.
Sure. And I think especially with credit card debt, it's important to get rid of that. I keep any credit cards, any credit paid off. I don't want to pay any interest. I still have a mortgage payment, but my interest rate is lower than the inflation rate. So it's like I'm paying with cheaper dollars, so I might as well just keep it. I probably have a year left. But cash flow, okay, so is cash flow your goal in life? We're going to start peeling back this onion. So the outside onion, which really starts to make us cry when we're cutting it, is that debt. But then now we've got better cash flow. But what do we want to do with that cash flow? What are your clients saying?
They typically want to have some type of emergency fund, is typically like the first line of defense of something going south, to make sure, like in my last client's case, was the transmission went out and he doesn't have a small car. He has a 18-wheeler truck. So it was about $12,000, he said. And that's just the parts, not including the labor. I would necessarily hear that an emergency fund of some sort, to make sure that if problems do arise, you're able to handle those with an option instead of just make more money.
So as we peel back this onion, why do you want to have this emergency fund? Why do you want to have this cash flow? It's ultimately because we want to have a peace of mind. We want to have some control over our life. Because at this point, he felt like paid down the debt, he started to get some control, and all of a sudden, boom, he's out of control again because of this unexpected maintenance issues with his income earning truck, right? That's the asset that brings his income in. So now he can't bring in income and he's got greater expense. That's a double whammy, right?
Exactly.
So, what I'm trying to get at is that habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. What is truly the end in mind? Sometimes we talk about financial freedom as the end in mind. And what does it mean to be financially free? And it's basically to not be worried, to not have this anxiety about where our money's coming from, what's going to happen if some of these life events occur, whether it's loss of income or unexpected expenses. Further down the road, we're going to want to say, well, we want to make sure we're putting enough in some kind of nest egg for retirement. We want to pay for our children's education, or just we want to be able to take a vacation. We don't want to work 52 weeks a year. We want to work maybe 48. So we have 4 weeks of vacation throughout the year, and visit
Yep.
family, or just, explore the world, things like that. Bless other people with our finances.
For sure.
So that's the thing. We have to begin with in mind. Where do we want to go? And then it goes down to habit 3, which is, okay, now put first things first.
Yep.
Often I'm quoting from the Bible, and I go with what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, part of the Sermon on the Mount. Seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added unto you. All these things being just clothing and food, your provision, normal provision. Mm-hmm. So in our life, we do need to put things first. My pastor was talking about the book of Ruth, and Ruth was a Moabite woman whose husband had died, her father-in-law had died, her brother-in-law had died, and then they decided to move back to Israel. And what did she do? She didn't just sit on her hands. She went out in the fields and gleaned. She started working. So some of the provision we get is when we're again proactive, going back to that first habit, being proactive. And so what are the things we can do first? Mm-hmm. And in finances, one of the things Dave Ramsey will say is pay yourself first. Put aside savings. You should be putting aside money for charity. Maybe that's 10%. Maybe savings is 10%. Paying down debt is something you do, and then you start building from there.
Yep.
So when I say put first things first, what comes to your mind?
Well, with that being said, I feel like you have to have a plan of where you want to be. What's your end goal, and what does that look like? Whether it be spiritually, financially, this can be any sort of thing. You have to have the end goal in mind, and from there you're able to work backwards. But for the financial aspect, for sure, it would be to make sure, I always say the first step is to make sure that you're not spending more than you make, because it's easy to say, but some people, especially when things get tough, you have to spend more than what you're bringing home. But the cash flow is going to be the key component to getting yourself into a better position. And then from there, like we were saying before, is having an emergency fund, or I like to call it a peace of mind fund, just because I want it to be properly named, as far as not bringing any negative words to that peace of mind fund. So from there, once you've completed those 2 steps, as far as number 1, having cash flow, number 1, being able to save up some money off to the side, and typically 3 to 6 months of your current expenses, then you can kind of get into other options. Whatever your flavor is, if you want to say, whether it be crypto, stocks, real estate, invested into business, let's say an IUL or a whole life policy, whatever your financial tolerance may bring you to, it's having the options from there to take that next investor step of your financial journey.
Absolutely. And one of the things that Rich Dotson introduced to me was financial pillars. I don't know if you ever heard him talk about that.
And I want to say I have.
Yeah. So today, if you think about your income,
Yep.
I draw this bubble, and there it is, my bubble. I'm not drawing my whiteboard. That's not behind me. What is it that you do to protect your income earning potential? And most people have health insurance, because you need to be healthy to work. You might have disability insurance. There's certainly professions that buy disability insurance. Typically, doctors and dentists buy disability insurance, probably because they have high mortgages and high expenses when it comes to malpractice insurance and all these things. So they can't afford not to have money coming in. The other thing is life insurance. So if you're the key income earner in your family, whatever that family looks like, and that family loses your income because of your untimely death, then how are they going to survive? Or if you have a spouse that's a significant contributor to what's happening in the home, and you have to now be home caring for your children. So anyway, there's these 3 pillars protecting your income, and that's health insurance, disability insurance, life insurance, and that's going to protect that income that's generating and sustaining your lifestyle. Yep. But those are the things that you have to begin with. Really, that's the foundation of when we talk about putting first things first.
Gotcha.
And
yeah.
You have to have this visualization. I mean, that is all about beginning with the end in mind. It was habit 2. Visualizing where you want to be, where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I was recently looking at some of the advice I give to my clients, and it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's actually a get rich slow scheme. And I think discipline is really one of the keys about becoming wealthy. You have to be disciplined. You mentioned it earlier, by not spending more than you make. I mean, one of the things we do is just go on Amazon. We can order anything we want anytime now. It's just like, gone are the days we would peruse a magazine, say, I don't like that someday. Now we just buy it, right? And I found that I really have to check myself. Why am I buying this? Why am I buying this? Can I do without this? Or what is it else that I want to buy? Because we just can nickel and dime ourselves to death through like Amazon or DoorDash, as it may be.
And it's crazy. Even nowadays, you can buy things that you pretty much can't afford just because they got like Afterpay and Klarna and all these other layaway apps to where you put yourself even further down the hole because you can't afford it today, but you're still going to buy it because you want it. And it'll just cost your future self even more than it already does because you're not only paying what it costs, but typically they're making sure that you pay them some interest on top of it.
Exactly. I'm trying to see if I can add power to my phone there, see if that works. When we talk about putting first things first, I'm putting it back in context of the 7 habits of highly effective people. One of the things he draws out was a column of things that are urgent and a column of things that are important or not important. And so you have this matrix where quadrant 1 is important and urgent. And this is kind of like the day job or the whirlwind of life that we have. And there's things we have to do. But there are important and non-urgent things. And a lot of this has to do with financial planning. And quite often we get into some kind of basically ignoring mode. You know, we're just coasting through life. We're not really paying attention. And that when it comes to like setting aside money for retirement, sometimes it's really just best to not see the money, to have it carved out and sent away to your IRA or 401k or whatever it is, you know.
Have it tucked off, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because basically if it's in the bank account, it gets spent, you know. And so that's often what I did when I was a W-2 wage earner for most of my life. And that worked out well for the most part. But it's not a very diversified approach. And if you really want to accomplish some of the things you have in your mind that you want to have, maybe you want to own a boat. Maybe you want just be free to take a vacation 4 times a year or whatever and have that money.
Whatever that goal is.
You need to have money that you can access. And when we talk about 401ks, typically you can't access that until you're 59 and a half.
Yep. Yeah. That's typically one of the things that gets brought up commonly is I have a lot of money in, let's say, a 401k or an IRA. Some of these accounts to where you have a nice large number on the screen, but when the time arises, it's either going to be 2 things that you give up. Either you give up the access to the money, meaning it's not going to be accessible when you need it, or it's going to be a penalty to utilize your own money. And then the second option is you have access to your money, but then you're giving up the opportunity of growing that money at a better rate than where it's currently at. Because typically, if you have access to it, it's not going to be the best growth. And then vice versa, if you are getting better growth, you're not going to have access to it. So it's kind of the pick your poison between most suggested financial tools. And there is other options that allow you to have the best of both worlds, not just pick which one do you want to have, either growth or access. And that's pretty much what Tom are getting to in a sense here is if there was a place where you can actually grow your money and have access to it whenever you wanted, and there wasn't anybody that had the magic key of saying yes or no, you have access to it, would that be something of interest? Because a lot of people are just going with the flow. Like Tom was just saying, hey, I'm kind of just putting money away. Hopefully whoever's managing it, whether it be you or let's say your employer, hopefully it is efficient enough to where it is going to make enough money for me at retirement.
So you talk about this type of an account. I have this one account that it's currently earning about 12% on over $860,000. Okay, annually. But what did it cost me to create that? It cost me over about 8 years putting in $780,000. So its current value is 862. Actually, I borrowed against that. So that 780 I put in, I actually borrowed more than 800,000 of it. And
There
yet
we
the
go.
860,000 is still earning 12% a year. So this is kind of weird. People go, how is that even possible? If you don't know how that's possible, then you need to talk to one of us.
Yes, it's one of the great games of leverage. You see this a lot in real estate to where I may not have $500,000 to actually buy a house, but what does the bank do typically? If I want to buy a $500,000 house, they're going to do their due diligence and see if I can qualify based on their parameters and say, okay, you may not have the full 500,000, but we're going to say that you put down 10, 20% down and we're going to finance the rest. What that is also known as is leverage. You're leveraging the bank's money to actually buy the asset, even though you don't have the full amount to actually purchase it. Why they allow it to happen is because simply if you default on your half of the deal, they still, number one, get the money that you gave them, but then they also have the asset still in place that they can sell to somebody else. You can go your whole entire life until you actually save up, in this case, the $500,000, which is going to take you time and opportunity costs for not just leveraging your money. So leverage is a great way to advance yourself if it's put into an asset, and it's a horrible way to get yourself in a downward spiral if you utilize it in things like credit cards, because that's another way that you're leveraging the bank's money, but you're actually paying them large amounts of interest on something that is not going to make you money 9 times out of 10.